Hey, what's up, everybody? You are tuned into another episode of Fatherhood is Dope, the podcast. I am your host, and I'm coming to you live right now, or it won't be live by the time you see it, but it's like real action, and you can already hear some things going on in the background because I am on the campus of Tennessee State University in the historic Gentry Center complex, actually on the basketball court, and I would not have had the privilege of getting here had it not been for today's guest who made it possible. Coach Brian Penny Collins, or affectionately known as Coach Penny, is my guest today, man. I appreciate you joining me for the episode.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so Coach Penny, as most of you all probably already know, is the head men's basketball coach at TSU. And but one of the most special things about him in his life, of course, when you have the privilege, is always his fatherhood, right? And so he agreed to come on, man, and kind of share a little bit more about his adventures, his perspective as a father. So I'm kind of excited to get into the conversation today.
I'm excited to be here, man. It's the greatest gift of all, man, to be a father.
Yeah, I would have to agree, although prior to fatherhood, I would not have had those same sentiments. And I know I have a lot of mothers and men who listen to the podcast who are not fathers, and they're like, and I always say, listen, one day it'll all make sense. It'll click like it clicked for me. But before we even get into fatherhood, let's kind of, what I do with all of my guests, contextualize like who you are, what you're about. I know you as a hometown hero. And eyebrows raised.
I like that. That sounds good. I don't hear that much.
A beloved son of Nashville, and so, but without me spilling it all, I kind of want you to give us some historic background into how you actually arrived here at TSU as the men's head basketball coach.
Right. Well, just the quick version is I was born and raised in Memphis. I moved to Nashville when I was around in the 5th grade, so I consider myself a full-time Nashvilleian because I spent the majority of my life here in Nashville. I went to White Creek High School, had a good career there, moved on to Belmont and played, took them to the first NCAA tournament, one of the key pieces to help them get there, and then started my coaching career. I did have a chance to play overseas and play pro ball a little bit in the developmental league as well, and got into coaching. This is going to be my 13th year coaching college basketball. This is my 5th year as a head coach, so I've been a lot of different places, and it really is a dream come true to be back here in Nashville and leading an institution where I've always just had a special place in my heart for TSU. Yeah. And just excited to be the head coach here, and we're on pace to do some special things here.
Yeah, that's special, man. I'm gonna take you back a step because you probably don't know this about me, but what I already see we have in common. So I'm from Jackson, Mississippi. So I call us country cousins. That's one, and then I went to Maplewood. I moved here in the 5th grade to Nashville. Then I went to Maplewood. So then that kind of puts us at the what years did you play at White Creek?
I graduated in 2002.
2002? Okay, I'm trying to see which guys you may have played against at Maplewood, man.
Spencer Richardson and Jamal Richardson and Bubba Taylor. Where'd you graduate Maplewood?
2005.
Okay, yeah.
So I was around then, man, and I remember the energy in the gym when White Creek and when Maplewood, touched down, which regardless of what school it was, what type of energy that brought to the city of Nashville, to that high school basketball area. So that was those were some glory days. And then so you transitioned to go to Belmont, had a successful career at Belmont. And you played a little bit overseas, like you said, but then if you're 13 years in the game already, so how did your basketball coaching career start?
Well, I was playing overseas, and I came back home for the summer, and I was in that phase where I was trying to figure out where I was going to play next year. And during that little time, I spent a lot of time working camps. I worked Tennessee State's camp, Belmont's camp, Vanderbilt's camp, and then I even started my own camp. After all those camps, and during the time working in Tennessee State's camp, the head coach was Sal Alexander. I guess he just saw my passion working with the kids during camp, so he offered me a job as a grad assistant, and I ultimately ended up taking that job, and then responding to the career that I'm having now. Yeah,
sweet deal. So did you transition from grad assistant to head coach?
Yeah. So I was a grad assistant here in 2007, 2008 season. And I did that for a year, and then the next year I transitioned into the director of operations, and I was still in grad school here as well. And then after I graduated, I moved on to Belmont University, and that's where I started my first full-time job as an assistant coach at Cumberland up in Lebanon, Tennessee.
Got it. Okay, I just want to contextualize some of that because I think it's important. So we for the work that I do, this platform on fatherhood, we see men and we recognize them as fathers. But I think when you understand like how a father shows up in the life of his son or his daughter, it's important to know all of the or some of the other exterior factors,
Exactly.
that could determine how you show up, interfere how you show up, or enhance how you show up. And you are literally, running a collegiate basketball program, and yet your most important job starts, before you get here and when you leave here.
Yeah.
And based on the conversation we had a second ago, sometimes that they're interwoven at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about what fatherhood looks like for you, man. You want to introduce your status of fatherhood?
Well, yeah. First of all, my wife, Lakia Collins, met her when I was here at Tennessee State.
Oh, really?
As a grad assistant, yeah. And we had a special bond. We dated for a while, and ultimately ended up getting married. And we had just an amazing son. And his name is History Collins. He's a good kid, man.
Pause.
Yeah.
Come on. Let's give it to me. How do you come up with the name History Collins?
Man, it's not that.
Never heard it.
It's not that unique, which is funny because when I was
the name itself being someone's first name is not that unique.
Yeah,
I've never heard it.
You're right. So History comes from Jay-Z's song called History.
Mm-hmm.
There's a song that Jay-Z had that was CeeLo Green was featured on it, and basically in that song he mentioned about having a son that repeats after him, that takes his legacy on and is better than he is. And it's a very intricate, very detailed song going into how important to leave a good legacy for your life. So in that song, it inspired me to have a son named History.
Yeah.
But even when I was like in college, how when you play video games and you can create a player, usually people create themselves and put them on video games. I would always create History Collins. Every game I played, video game, I would put History on the Lakers and play with History. And it was always like, me and my friends was just a little joke. If I ever had a son one day, I was going to name him History based off that Jay-Z song. And I ended up having a son, and I stuck to what I wanted to do. I thought it was a unique name and something that it would immediately get people's attention. And his personality and everything, and his name and how he walks around, he looks like a little History now.
Yeah.
And now it sticks.
Yeah, leaving his books and stuff in the Gentry Center. I'm gonna let you get back to you were on the spiel of you and your wife meeting, having history.
Yeah.
And where were you going with that?
Well, no, with that, just the simple fact that I met her at a time here where I was at Tennessee State, historic place. A lot of special things have happened here on this campus. My parents, my mom went here, my grandmother went here, my sister went here, and it's just I have a large legacy here. And not only that, my wife's family has family members that went to Tennessee State.
Yeah.
So when we had our son, and I mentioned the History name to her, it wasn't even no argument. She loved it. It just flowed right into what we wanted to do.
Okay, that's good, because I was literally about to circle back to that, because as a married man, I was going to get you to kind of give some other brothers who may not be married and who plan to be married and plan to have children, and they're going to have that son.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the statistics say, but I'm just going to, based on just like common knowledge, the majority of men would imagine having a son and then naming their son either after them or actually being able to name their son, period. And I came up against, I don't have a son, I have a daughter, but in the idea of us having a son, I thought that I was going to get full rights to state a name, whether I wanted to have a Aaron Jr. or a Tony or a Leroy, whatever it was.
Right.
And I realized in that space that my wife, she had a strong opinion on the name of our future daughter, our future son. And so to hear you say that your wife was completely on board, man, like, I just want to say that in my experience, it doesn't always happen that
No,
easy.
it doesn't. My mom told me that she named me, but she had a couple of different ideas before she came up with my first name, Brian. But like I told you, and I've been naming my son on video games for a long time. So when me and my wife would just joke about having a kid one day, I would tell her, if we have a boy, his name's going to be History.
And she was rolling with it.
She was rolling with it. So, and at that time, it still was kind of like, we'll see. But when we found out we were having a boy, that was instantly, we both were excited about the chances of having history. And she gave him his middle name. His middle name is Cruz.
Awesome.
And really Cruz stands for cross in Spanish. So we wanted to have some type of biblical connection in there. And then history Cruz just kind of it also flows well.
Yeah. That's smooth. All right, so let's talk a little bit about history, man. Just his dynamic, his personality. He's clearly a reader. He's leaving like a 5th grade level book sitting in the Gentry Center. So how old is history? What's his personality?
Man, he's a trip, man. He's 6 going on 16.
Yeah.
He'll actually be 7 next week. And he's just got a bright personality. He's fun to be around. He's always bouncing off the walls. Yeah. He dribbles all day in the house. It gets in me and my wife's nerves.
Is that nature or nurture?
I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
He has no choice because he's around it all the time.
Yeah.
But we tell him all the time, you don't have to play basketball, right? And he loves it. He just loves being around the game. But he's also a smart kid. He's bright. When I go to his school, eat lunch with him or anything like that, the teachers are always talking about how much they love him. The librarian loves him, the musician, music teacher, they all just love being around history. And he's a good kid, and I think he's gonna have a really bright future.
That's awesome, man. So how does he show up? Do you have him around the team often?
Oh yeah, all the time. So history goes to school out in Williamson County. So when he comes to TSU, it's just he gets a chance to get around these guys, these older guys, and I'm trying to figure out how he learns this dance or how does he say that word so crisply. He's in the locker room with those guys hanging out, and they're giving him all the stuff that a big brother would give the little brother. So he's around TSU. He's gonna grow up on this campus, and I'm really glad for that.
That's gonna be a dope experience for him and for you and for this campus.
Yeah.
You know what's so interesting, man, is when I think about coaches, I think about my track coaches, and I was in the band, and you just think about the leader or the coach, and more often than not, coaches wear so many different hats. It's no coincidence we're talking about fatherhood here, because many coaches take on the role of mentor or of fatherly perspective. So before I get into like how you walk in that space now, I actually want to know, like, what were your coaching experiences or coaches experiences like when you were growing up?
Well, first of all, I had a father who was a coach.
Yeah.
My dad was a long-time coach over 40 years, and I spent a lot of time in the gym with him, just like history is with me.
Yeah.
It's just that I was in high school gyms and history's in college gyms.
Yeah.
But so I saw a lot of interaction between him and his players. He had some players that didn't need him as much as other guys.
Yeah.
I saw my dad take kids to and from practice every day and pick them up on Christmas holidays and bring them over for Thanksgiving. So I kind of saw firsthand how a coach should be with his players in that relationship. But then as I grew up and, I had my own coaches, I had AAU coaches, Mike Williams and Hendry Merritt, who were big time influences on me, and they were doing the same things that I saw my dad do for his players. They were doing for me. Yeah. I had coaches in high school, Jim Nallner, who recently just passed away. My coach at Whites Creek, who he was the most disciplined, most structured coach I had ever been around. In his program, he had a tradition there at Whites Creek of winning, and when he came into a room, you set up straight. You just had a respect for him, and he was married and he had kids, and he brought them around our program. So when I went through that experience, and I just saw how it is to be a man and a father and a coach, and be able to have the key word is balance. Yeah. I was able to take those same values that I learned with my previous coaches and put them into my day-to-day that I go through now.
Yeah. So here at TSU, so do you feel like the guys that you encounter, it's ironic enough when you were walking up to this interview, I saw you talking to a player, and I asked you if that was one of your players, and expressed that she's on a volleyball team, and you said TSU is how did you describe it?
Big family.
It's a big blue family, man. And I know that, TSU is my alma mater, so I know that just from the campus atmosphere, but from the athletics perspective. So you got men and women track who were just in here.
Right.
Practicing, you got the volleyball team, and then you have your actual guys who you are primarily responsible for on the court. And I'm just interested to see, like do they expect you? What's that balance like of them expecting you to show up as coach, who is generally keeping them in line, sometimes the disciplinary, and so how is your balance with your players?
Right, that's a great question. First of all, that's my number one priority.
Balance.
Yeah, well, no, my players.
Okay,
yeah,
sweet.
but balance is of course. Like we can talk about that next. But my priority here is to make sure my well-being of my players, the men's basketball team. I give them everything I have every day. We love on them. We give them tough love. We hold them accountable. And then when we get between these lines, it's all business. We make sure the guys check in the office every day before 1 o'clock, and we have a real relationship with our guys, and it's authentic, and they can feel it. And when you do that, when you do those kind of things, people around the campus start to take notice.
Yeah.
That's why you see me meeting with a volleyball player. I got a couple of volleyball players. One, I call her my daughter.
Yeah.
And she'll come to my office and sit in my office for like 30, 45 minutes just talking about her day, and and I'm here for her. And it's not just her. We got women's basketball players and men's football players, and they'll come by and they just want to sit in Coach Penny's office and just talk about life. Just recently had a guy graduate who texted me, Coach, man, I just wanted to let you know I love you, man. I appreciate everything you did for me, and sitting in your office for 10 minutes at a time every couple of weeks, man, did a lot for me, man. Things you did, things you tell me. So you don't, when you're having these conversations, you're having these meaningful conversations with these students, you're not doing it so that you can give them some great advice. You're doing it so that hopefully it'll impact them later on, and they'll take even just one word or one moment you have with them, and it will impact their life. So that's why I feel like I'm supposed to be here at TSU. Of course, I want to impact the men's basketball program, but I want to ignite a flame that can go out through this entire community.
Yeah. That's solid, man. As I'm sitting here, I've seen you coach before. This is my first personal encounter with you, man. I could imagine how your players show up for you. I mean, you strike me as the type of coach that has this equal exchange of respect, man. And I ran track too, and it's something about, man, when you have healthy coaches, it's something about. And this as a player, it makes you want to play harder. It makes you want to perform harder. It makes you want to actually, reach your full potential.
Yeah. And that's our goal. Our goal is to get them in a position to where they feel like they'll run through the wall for us.
Yeah.
And because they see how hard we work for them.
Yeah. Man, what's your hope for okay, let's take this one step back. So history is 5? 6 going on 7 in 2 weeks. When is his birthday?
February 18th.
18th. Okay, my daughter's is the 24th, man. So they right in that same ballpark. All right. So I'm thinking about your hope for, if history is 6, you've had him in the midst of your coaching career, but I know a lot of young fathers who have either had children in high school or in college or right after college, and I'm interested to see, because you coach this current generation or the next generation, man, what type of advice could you give to them, whether they're 18, 19, 20 and have children, or if they're in their mid-30s preparing to have children?
Well, one thing I can just speak personally about myself. You want to spend as much time with them as you can.
Yeah.
Perfect example. I can't never really go see history play games because we play on Saturdays, and so they play Saturdays the same day we play. Yeah. And we'll have a shoot around or a practice during the exact same time that they're going, and we can't change it because other teams are coming in. So I try to go to his practices. On days we don't have practice, I'll try to go. Any days we're at home on a Sunday when I don't have anything left in me, I'll go outside and shoot with them because I know that I'm missing so much with them on certain days that I need to take care of these days that we're just sitting around. And I really do believe that God gives men an extra amount of energy and power that we're supposed to fight through it. We're supposed to fight through fatigue. Because a lot of times when we don't spend time with our children, it's because we're tired or we've been at work all day. And we get off work, we leave at 7 and they're asleep, and we come back at 7 p.m. and should be getting ready for bed. And as soon as we're walking in, they're hopping right on us, and we're tired, and we want to say, all right, give me a second, let me unwind for a minute. But I really do feel like as men, we're supposed to have another round of energy to push through that little fatigue.
That's good.
And give our kids every amount of energy that we put into our job. We should match that energy with them.
All right, so I felt like that was a personal challenge, man, because you really read in my playbook. I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right. But I think that's a call to action, man. Not just for me, but I'm hoping that my listeners take that as a call to action for fathers to give it that extra gear, kick it into high gear or go into the next level, go into that reserve of energy to give your kids your best. I think that's honorable. Man, I'll be reluctant, honestly, sitting here talking to a basketball coach if I didn't get, a knee-jerk reaction at this point on the life of Kobe Bryant, man, and whether that's on the court, off the court, just him as a father. And I'm pretty sure you've seen the wave of the dad girl hashtags and just how we've been able to honor Kobe's legacy as a father. How does that resonate with you as a dad? And I'm interested to see just how do you manage that with leading an actual basketball program, knowing that, probably 9 out of 10 of your players, if not all of them, have been inspired by his legacy, his career, his life.
Right. Well, first of all, I'm still devastated by it because I was a big-time Kobe Bryant fan. I still don't believe it. I see pictures and videos, and I'm just like, I still feel like it's just going to come back. Like, it's that devastating to me. And I'm really not ever probably going to get over it. Yeah. And it's going to be one of the memorable moments for me. I remember when 9/11 happened. Yeah. I don't remember exactly where I was when I found out about Kobe Bryant's death. And I think I addressed it with my team right away. First of all, I think the next day or maybe that night, I sent a long text message to the team about his impact on my life and, just making sure they were okay and understood the significance of it. And then the next day at practice, we talked about it. We had a little session, talked about it right here in the center circle. We prayed for his family. Yeah. But for me personally, it just makes you, it really does make you think about your children. And I held my son a little tighter. And Kobe always talked about how, this generation doesn't understand the history of the game. I remember that next day, I'll show history highlights of Magic Johnson and Pistol Pete and Wilt Chamberlain and all these old school players because Kobe inspired me to, like, the history of the game needs to be taught to this generation. And so we watched some of that. It was funny because I said history. The best point guard ever was 6'9", and his name was Magic. Wow. He was like, his name was Magic? I said, yeah, Magic Johnson. Wow. He was like, what I'm saying? But I would have never even done that unless I had kind of got inspired by, Kobe's life. And then we watched 2 hours of Kobe Bryant highlights. And,
just on YouTube.
Just on YouTube, talking about his Mamba mentality and what that really means. And he's going to be immortalized for how this thing transpired and how he died. And I think this is exactly how he would want it if he passed away. And I still can't believe it, man. But Kobe Bryant, he impacted this generation. He's going to impact the next 30, 40 years of every basketball player that ever plays the game.
That's awesome. We're going to end right here on a high note because I know you probably got some practice to get to or something. But, man, I'm interested in knowing what your hope is as a father, in this next generation. And that can be your hope for how you show up, your hope for history, your hope for your players, just the spirit of fatherhood. Because I do want to say this, as we just put a cap on the conversation on Kobe, man. I think as much as he did on the court, I think his passing literally sent like a sound wave through the hearts of fathers, man, that would have a lasting impact as well. And so as we ride that wave of fatherhood, what's your hope for your players who are going to become fathers? How you see yourself as a father in this next generation?
Well, for me personally, every day, one of the key things that I really want them to see is how I treat my family. Yeah. How I bring my wife around, how I'm a dedicated Christian man, how I treat my family, how I spend time with my son, and I bring him up here to my work. Yeah. I let him spend time with them. I genuinely care about them, and I want them to understand that also that it's not easy. Usually everybody sees this movie, storybook, fake story of how marriage is supposed to go. No arguing, no negative interchanges. Everything's supposed to be perfect, and it's not. Yeah. Nothing's ever going to be perfect. But once you decide that you get married and you want to do, and you made that honor to God to be a father and a husband, and to death do you part, you have to work through the good and the bad. Yeah. Just like in a game. I always tell my players, you are who you really are when adversity hits. When things are not going your way, that's who you really are. And sometimes in life, things don't go your way. Yeah. So when you're in your marriages and you and your significant other are having a disagreement, It's not, let's break up. I'm getting a divorce, or I'm gonna go out and have another kid somewhere else. Like, no, you communicate that with them and you figure it out. You'll get together and see how y'all can come together and figure this thing out. One of the best things I've ever taught to me was by my AAU coach. Communication eliminates confusion.
Yeah.
You can communicate things out a little bit better and talk and sit down and listen to each other. A lot of things can get solved. And that's how it's gonna be in life. I compare the fact that you go to class every day. You gotta be on time for class. You gotta go to weights. You gotta be on time for weights. You gotta come to film, be on time for that. You gotta listen. You gotta go to practice. You gotta be ready for practice. Then you got a game that you gotta play. All that is like life. Because in life you're gonna have a car note. You're gonna have electric bill. You gotta pay it on time. You gotta have a job that you're gonna have to be on time to. You may have a function that you gotta go to. Then you gotta come back home and deal with your wife. Well, everything that you experienced in the athletic world and sports and college and all those things should prepare you for that.
Yeah.
You should be mentally tough enough to be ready to handle a household. And I said all that to say this. I want to be a walking mirror of a physical, tough man that can handle all of those things and still come to work and get things done and still be successful and still be happy, still dress fly, still win games, and still give y'all all I need, because I'm balanced and I'm on track and I'm focused on what I need to do. And our theme for our team is deserve to win. So, because if you can deserve to win, you'll deserve to win in life.
Man. I love when this happens, man. When this happens. All right, so I host a podcast, but I mean, man, if folks who listen to the episodes or watch the videos, man, they know me. I show up as I am. You know, and my only hope in doing all this is to continue to amplify the voices of fathers and to share stories of real men who have decided to answer the call to fatherhood. And so listening, you know, when I get the privilege to sit down and talk to fathers, man, I stay open to be inspired. You know, I stay open to be encouraged. And so I appreciate all that you just shared, because I can imagine, I just felt like I was one of your players and you just got me like, I mean, boy, my brain is on like 10. I'm ready to go and like run through a wall right now, you know, in the name of fatherhood in this case. So I appreciate you bringing that fire, that zeal for not just fatherhood, but for life and for manhood and for marriage too, as you touched on that. So we coming to a close, man. I want to thank you for having this conversation with me, for allowing me to do it right here in the Gentry Center, man. This is a campus and university that I love so much. I'm excited that they have you to lead the helm of this team, and like you said, history is going to grow up on this campus. So if I'm reading between the lines, that means that we're going to have him for a while, man. And I'm praying for many winning seasons ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. or Coach Brian Penny Collins, man. I appreciate you, sir.
Thanks again, man. I really appreciate it. Yes, sir.
For sure. Hey, guys, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. Of course, you can watch this video on YouTube, but for my dedicated, committed listeners, man, I want to say thank you again for always checking us out on Apple Podcasts, on Google, and on Stitcher. So don't forget to like, download, and subscribe to the podcast. It's been real. I'm your host, Aaron McGee. Fatherhood is dope. Peace. And
we out.
It's a wrap.
Good job, man.